Hello YouTube, Martin Ferret here again, back with more stuff. I'm going to attempt to read this silly little holiday story for everyone, but be forewarned, I am not the best at reading out loud. Moreover, I have to read through the darkness that is this iPad screen, and yeah, holding an iPad, it's going to shake. Deal with it. Our story is Rudolph Saves the Sprites. This is the direct sequel to Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer the movie, which this book presumes you've seen, so fair warning on that as well. This book used to be fairly rare, but recently copies of it have turned up on Amazon, and for that I'm grateful, because my copy is ruined and needs to be replaced. But for our reading tonight, this copy suffices. Rudolph Saves the Sprites by Amy LaRocque. Apologies if I've mispronounced the name. The first day of winter dawned bright and sunny at the North Pole. All day long the reindeer and the elves held parties and candy cane hunts and snowball fights. But Rudolph the reindeer couldn't wait for the Northern Lights display. The sprites always gave a show that filled the night sky with dazzling sparkles. Finally, twilight fell. It was time for the sprites to show their Northern Lights. Mr. and Mrs. Claus strode into the stadium. The elves followed and fought over the best seats. The reindeer trotted in and called hello to each other. "Let the show begin," Santa cried. He waved his red and white hat in the air. Everyone sucked in their breath and waited. And waited. And waited. But the sky stayed black. Where were the sprites? Murmurs filled the stands. The elves began to clap, the reindeer stomped their hooves, but nothing happened. Finally, Santa stood and spoke. "Something has happened to the sprites. Doggle, Boone, harness the flyers to my sleigh." Santa flew off to search for the sprites. Everyone else went home. The next morning, Rudolph's father returned to their house. "Did you find the sprites, Blitzen?" Rudolph's mother asked. "No, Mitzi," he said sadly. "Not a sign of them anywhere. We're going out to look again as soon as all the flyers have a hot breakfast and a quick nap." At reindeer school, Rudolph told his doe friend Zoe that the sprites were still missing. "Where could they be? Do you think someone kidnapped the Northern Lights?" Zoe asked. "I don't know," Rudy answered, "but if we don't find them, our nights are going to be awfully dark." Rudolph hung his head sadly. He sniffed at a blossom poking out of the ground. Rudolph's head jerked up and his eyes widened in surprise. "Zoe," he cried, "why is there a flower growing here in the winter?" "Look, there's another one," Zoe cried, pointing with her hoof. "And another," Rudolph said. The deer raced along, finding more and more blossoms. Soon they were standing on a flower-covered path. It stretched all the way to the ice bridge over the great chasm, the ice bridge that led to Stormella's house. "Let's cross the bridge. I have a feeling this path leads to the sprites," Rudolph said. "I don't want to," Zoe answered. "I'm scared of Stormella." "Stormella used to be wicked, but she's nice now, remember?" Rudolph said. "She won't hurt us if we cross her bridge." The deer trotted across. Soon they were standing in front of Stormella's castle. Even though he knew Stormella had promised to be nice, Rudolph was still a little scared. He used his nose to lift the door knocker. It fell with a big boom. "Who's out there?" shouted a gruff voice. "Ridley! Ridley! Answer the door, Ridley! Where is that butler when I need him?" Heavy footsteps thundered down the hall. The huge wooden door swung open. Stormella stood there with curlers in her hair. "What do you want?" she snapped. "Hello, Miss Stormella," Rudolph whispered. "Remember me?" Stormella leaned down and peered at Rudolph. "Oh, yes, the little deer who saved Christmas with his glowing nose. Sorry I was grumpy, but I haven't had my morning coffee yet. What can I do for you?" "Do you know where the sprites are?" Rudolph asked. "They were supposed to put on a show last night, but they never showed up." "Why would I know where those sprites are? No one invited me to see their little light show anyway," Stormella huffed. Then she slammed the door in Rudolph's face. "Now what?" Zoe asked. "Come on," Rudolph said. "I have an idea." Zoe followed Rudolph around the side of Stormella's castle. The path of blossoms led to a small window in the wall. "Boost me up," Rudolph said. Zoe ducked, and Rudolph climbed onto her back. He wobbled for a second, then got his balance. "I see them! I see the sprites!" Rudolph cried. He climbed into the window. Then he pulled Zoe through. Rudolph and Zoe squinted in the dark dungeon. They could see the sprites glowing dimly. They were trapped in a cage with icicle bars. "We're saved! Rudolph is here!" the sprites cried as they glimmered and swirled. "You're just in time," Sparkle the sprite said. "We're starting to get dim. We would have gone out forever if you hadn't found us." "But how will we free you?" Zoe cried. "We don't have a key." Rudolph stepped closer to the bars. His nose glowed red as he thought hard. A bar near his nose began to melt. "Rudolph, your nose is melting the icicles," Zoe said. Rudolph concentrated as hard as he could. His nose glowed brighter and brighter, and all of the bars began to melt. "Stop!" cried a voice. "What do you think you're doing?" Rudolph and Zoe spun around. Ridley the penguin was standing there, and he looked very, very angry. "We're letting the sprites go," Rudolph cried. "Those sprites are here for my mistress Stormella," Ridley squeaked. "They're going to put on a private show for her tonight. After that, I'll let them go." "You have no right to lock up the sprites," Rudolph shouted. He turned back to the bars and melted the last one. The sprites flew out of the cage and swirled around the dungeon. Then they rushed through the window up into the sky. "Now you've ruined everything," Ridley shouted. The little penguin began to sob. Suddenly, Stormella burst into the room. "What's going on here?" she bellowed. "Oh, madam," Ridley said, "I had a wonderful surprise planned. The sprites were going to put on their northern light show just for you. I dragged them here in a magic sack, but their lights must have melted the ground. Then flowers grew, and these meddly little reindeer followed the blossoms and wrecked the surprise. They set the sprites free." Stormella bent down and wiped a tear from Ridley's eye. "Why did you catch the sprites, Ridley? Don't you know they can't be kept in a cage? They are for the whole North Pole to enjoy." "But, madam," Ridley said, sniffling, "you were never invited to Santa's winter celebration, so I wanted you to see the Northern Light show before everyone else did." Stormella patted Ridley's head. "There's a reason I've never been invited," she said quietly. "I haven't been very nice in the past." Rudolph cleared his throat and stepped forward. "You're nice now," he said. "I'm sure Santa wouldn't mind if you came to the show." That night, Santa's stadium filled up again. Stormella was the guest of honor. The sprites put on their best show ever, and at the very end they spelled out a special message. Thanks, Rudolph. That's the story. That's the end. Hope you guys enjoyed that. I think I flubbed it right at the very end, of course. Anyway, I have to learn to edit videos and so forth. Anyway, I still have one more video planned for the end of the year. I'm going to do the cereal boxes. I finally have all the ones that I want, so expect that. I don't know if I'll get it out before Christmas or not, so if I don't see you guys between now and then, Merry Christmas to everyone, and to all a good night. And, of course, God bless us, everyone. Ciao.